Okay, we'll start with this. Well, Hannah Gabriels was successful in her bid to become both a light heavyweight and a heavyweight champion in a situation that is unique unto itself. There were two separate world titles for two separate weight classes for a single contest by way of the WBA and the WBC. A WBA light heavyweight title and a WBC heavyweight title. And Hannah Gabriels looked the part. I mean, she really did. This was her first fight since July of 2019. Hannah Gabriels had been out of action for well over a year. And she looked exactly as she always looked. Mid-range to inside, slipping and sliding, staying off the line and getting off counter shots. She smothered Marta Gaytan with volume, with activity, with aggression, which is Hannah Gabriels' calling card. She's a close quarters fighter.
Effective. With
some mustard and no shots, some countering ability, and she really is one of the better fighters anywhere at or around 154, 160 pounds. That being said, Hannah Gabriels has always struck me as a very intelligent woman. And I don't imagine that this intelligent woman is going to squander her time, what time she has left, because time waits for no man or woman. We're all getting older. You know, Hannah's close to 40. And I don't imagine she's going to use what years she has left as a boxer campaigning in these barren weight classes, these ghost divisions. This is a situation that is very hard for me to interpret because Hannah Gabriels is the light heavyweight champion by way of the WBA and the heavyweight champion by way of the WBC. Those are the facts as they are on paper. But on paper, we can see that these are divisions that have no depth, that before this contest had no champions. So how do you interpret this? Is this really a testament to Hannah Gabriels' skill winning two world titles that no one was holding in divisions where there are barely any girls to fight? There are approximately 12 girls at light heavyweight, 12 girls at heavyweight. This is a pound-for-pound conversation that we're talking about, you understand? These are career accomplishments, career accolades in the career of Hannah Gabriels of Costa Rica. And I just don't know what to make of it. I mean, I really can't count it against her, but it does read like a glorified tune-up fight, that it was definitely a tune-up fight, and it was a necessary evil. It was needed, but the world titles being on the line in what can only be described as a tune-up fight, it's a frivolity that many a boxing fan has had to endure in both men's and women's boxing. So what are you supposed to say?
Should you rate her for it?
Is this a testament to Hannah Gabriels' pound-for-pound skills? Does winning two world titles under these particular circumstances, does that qualify her to be ranked as a pound-for-pound fighter for winning two world titles no one was holding in divisions where there are no girls to fight? I just don't know what to say. I don't want to discredit Hannah Gabriels. I know she's one of the best fighters at 154 and 160, and you could argue that, given how barren those divisions up there are, 175 and heavyweight, she's the best fighter anywhere at or around those weights as well. So I guess in that way, we have to qualify it, but not read too much into it. There are going to be updates to the Ring IQ women's pound-for-pound list very soon that make light of these recent events. Hannah Gabriels is a champion. That is not subject to opinion. That is not subject to debate.
Those are the facts as they are.
The question now is, what is next for Hannah now that she's back in action? As stated, I don't think she's going to stay up there. There's no money for Hannah Gabriels running around at 175 at a heavyweight division because there ain't no other girls up there. So I imagine that Hannah is going to be moving down, and I imagine that Hannah is going to land at 160 pounds, where those world titles that Clarissa Shields was holding there, the three remaining titles, they're set to go vacant very soon. She's the undisputed champion at 154 pounds, but she's also the undisputed champion who's preoccupied dabbling in mixed martial arts. There's not much chance of Hannah going back to 54 and getting a rematch with Clarissa. Clarissa is busy, and she may be busy for the rest of 2021. That being said, you don't want to stay in a division where there ain't no girls to fight and there ain't no goddamn money. So the best place for you to go, instead of 154, is a division upstairs, 160, where Savannah Marshall is the WBO champion, and where the other three alphabet titles, in all likelihood, are going to go vacant very soon. I'm already hearing rumors and rumblings that the IBF title is vacant there as we speak.
Is that right?
That is a title that Lou DiBella can help Hannah Gabriels procure? Lou DiBella is her promoter in this part of the world when she's not over there in her native Costa Rica. I could see a situation where Lou maneuvers Hannah into fighting for either that IBF title or maybe the WBA, maybe the WBC. Somebody's got to hold it. I think there's value in a Hannah Gabriels versus Savannah Marshall fight because Hannah would be a common opponent between Savannah and Clarissa. If Lou DiBella can set it up to where Hannah picks up one of those titles at 160 pounds, suddenly a fight between Hannah and Savannah isn't just your run-of-the-mill common opponent with Clarissa Shields fight. No, it would become a unification match.
There's fights out there for Hannah.
Maybe she can fight Alicia Napoleon upon Alicia Napoleon's return, or maybe she can fight Alma Ibarra, who just dished out a professional loss to Maricela Cornejo and looked good doing it. Maybe she can fight Marie-Eve Dicker for one of those middleweight titles that are there. Maybe she can pick up where she left off and have that Raquel Miller fight. There are fights out there for Hannah Gabriels, not exclusive to a Clarissa Shields rematch or a Savannah Marshall fight, though the greatest value really would be in the Marshall fight as opposed to all those other fights. That's what you'd be building towards. There are opportunities there for Hannah now that she's back, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for Hannah Gabriels. Moving on. This weekend's circus act, this weekend's shit show involving Jake Paul, YouTuber Jake Paul, influencer Jake Paul, and retired MMA guy Ben Askren. You know, preliminary reports are putting the number for pay-per-view buys. It's somewhere around 1.45 million buys to 2 million. Now, I don't know how much stock you could have in those kinds of numbers this early because the goddamn fight was the day before. Pay-per-view buys, generally speaking, don't come out that fast. Usually, you really don't know what the goddamn thing did until a week or 2 weeks' time. So, who knows if that's what this thing really did. Though I will say that Jake Paul, whatever you want to consider him, whatever he is, he's earning the kind of money that most actual boxers, serious ones, don't earn at 3-0.
A lot of people aren't happy about that.
As a longtime follower of the sport, I don't view it through rose-tinted lenses. I'm fully aware that the sport of boxing oftentimes hurts itself a lot more than anything Jake Paul is doing in a ring against Ben Askren. That being said, this is the entertainment business, and what's important to note is that Jake Paul approached this sport with the kind of massive following that an actual boxer, a real boxer, hopes to amass in their professional career so that they can start making serious money. That's a game changer. You have to understand that before Jake Paul decided to step into a boxing ring and lace the gloves up, he already had fans. He already had a following. Thus, the market for him was already there. And there's a very important lesson for every man and woman who decides to box to learn from this situation. You don't have to respect Jake Paul. You don't have to take him seriously.
You don't.
But you should take notes that your following has everything to do with what you earn as a boxer. Reigning WBO super featherweight champion Michaela Mayer from right here in the United States had this to say. She said, I actually don't have a problem with Jake Paul. He seems to really love boxing and be dedicated to his training. Yeah, he's a YouTube star, but shoot, that just shows how powerful and important social media can be these days. I'm an optimist, so in my eyes, everyone's talking about boxing. She added, if anything, it's proving that at the end of the day, boxing is entertainment. So enough with the perfect records, let's just make big fights. I don't know if Michaela May is your cup of tea. She's got a rather large contingent of UK fans that are sick of her shit when it comes to that Terry Harper situation. But regardless of that, you have to put that aside and read the message in the bottle. Michaela is right. This is the entertainment business after all. You got a lot of fighters screaming for equal pay in the sport of women's boxing. A burning topic we talk about here on the channel all the time. I say it all the time. There's no such thing as equal pay in women's boxing or men's boxing. There's no such thing as equal pay or even fair pay in boxing. Your value is based on what you can generate. A fighter like Jake Paul, who already approached the sport with a following. He already had a bunch of people subscribe to him on YouTube and Instagram and other forms of social media. This is what makes it possible for a guy like this, who's not even a serious professional in the eyes of a lot of people, but this is what makes it possible for him to earn what he's earning. He already has a following. So, for those boxers out there who are serious athletes and take their careers very seriously, it's not a phase, it's something they've dedicated their whole lives to. For those individuals, they have to understand.
There ain't no fucking base pay in boxing.
Jake Paul stands to make in excess of $1 million. I think it's safe to say that. And he stands to make that, not even being as serious a professional boxer as real professional boxers. This is only made possible by his following. Now, he approached the sport of boxing with a following already from his YouTube and social media and acting like a general idiot on camera. That's how that happened. Professional boxing ain't got time to be doing stuff like that.
They don't.
But the basic idea here is that for all those fighters that are screaming for equal pay or even fair pay, that's the only way it's going to happen. You have to amass a following, because that following is powerful enough that a guy like Jake Paul, who's not even really a serious boxer, I don't think.
With a pro record of 3-0.
That following of his is the reason he's getting paid the way he's getting paid. So if you're going to tackle the issue of purse discrepancies between men and women in the sport of boxing, you have to realize it's a marketing issue more than anything else. The greatest change is affected by the size of your following, thus that is what you must work on, because this still is the entertainment business. It's a sport, yeah, but it's a sport that's intended to entertain a lot of people. So the more people you entertain, the bigger your following gets, the more money you get.
Look at how well Ebony Bridges is doing with just 6 professional fights.
She doesn't come from some deep Olympic background, but she knew marketing is the ticket. Marketing is the key. I think a lot of boxers need to take notes from Ebony Bridges. I think a lot of boxers, as strange as this might sound, as far as marketing goes, they need to take note of Jake Paul, because that's what it's all about. You got to amass a following.
Maybe you do that telling your story.
Maybe you do that interacting with fans over social media, letting them know who you are and what you represent. What kind of person, you know? There's a lot of different ways to go about it, and you want to go about it in a way that's unique to you, so that it's genuine, so that it's organic, so that it's not staged. But you really do have to be in tune with these people if you want them to follow you, because sometimes winning in the ring, that just ain't enough.
Not for everybody.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's not an exact science, so you have to do whatever you can for as long as you can, so that you can make a lot of fucking money. And finally, in middleweight news, on the heels of his win, his successful title defense over Liam Williams, WBO middleweight champion Demetrius Andrade took to Twitter and said, "Big shout out to my guy, Future of Boxing and PBC Boxing, for making a statement and fighting Lenny Montiel when no other middleweight champion would. Can't wait for this. Hashtag Lions Only. Hashtag Say No to Pets. Hashtag Twin Magic." Jermell, so obviously in defense of his brother Jamal, he took to Twitter and said, "Motherfucker signed with your boy across the ponds. 2 years later, he pulled out of a fight, a week left in camp. Now they willing to take whatever. Who career hurting now? Charlos or Boo Boo? Motherfucker know damn well Eddie ain't gonna abide by any of Al's rules. Best way to protect that weak-ass chin." To which Eddie Hearn himself responded, "Make us an offer and find out. No problems with us. Ready to make the fight." Jermell went on to say, "How come Boo Boo ain't pursuing Canelo?"
Stop deflecting.
Sounds a lot like what Jermell Charlo's trying to say is that his brother Jamal, the middleweight, he's somehow in a power position. I mean, Jermel's doing all right. He's about to fight for the undisputed junior middleweight champion, but what's Jamal doing? Fighting Juan Montiel? Is that somehow a step up from Sergey Derevianchenko?
No.
I want you to think about this. You fight Sergey Derevianchenko, who was coming off a loss and a year of inactivity. That was your biggest and best fight to date in the middleweight division. You go from that to fighting an even lesser-known guy on regular Showtime, not pay-per-view. On regular Showtime is Juan Montiel. Does fighting that guy...
What's that do?
Does that somehow herald a guy who's in a power position?
No.
From what I can see, Jamal Charlo's not doing any better than Demetrius Andrade, with the difference being that Demetrius wants the fight and Jamal does not. You got these two brothers in their little Lions-only promotions that they love to talk about, yet they always defer you to someone else when it's time to make decisions, when it's time to make things happen, because these guys, they've been convinced
They're bosses.
that their suits, They've been convinced by someone that they're businessmen that don't actually do any business. They defer their business to the same guy, the advisor, who looks a lot to me like a promoter. Generally speaking, you know, an advisor doesn't have that much power. An advisor doesn't have network deals with two separate networks. Not an advisor. Promoter?
Well,
he might. Essentially what I'm getting at here is that the Charlo brothers like to use business as a reason for their careers having gone the way that they've gone. And for Jermel, it is working out because he has the good fortune of campaigning in a division where the PBC has most of the ponies in the show. But Jermel Charlo is not as fortunate, and he's not in a position where he can pretend he can fight Juan Montiel and someone's gonna give a damn. There's still time to call that fight off. There's still time to work something out with Eddie Hearn and Stefan Espinoza and Al Heyman to where Jermel Charlo's next fight will be a unification match with Demetrius Andrade, because neither one of the two are going to get Canelo Alvarez in the ring. Neither one of the two are going to get Gennady Golovkin in the ring. So they might as well fight each other since they're both unbeaten two-division champions. What's the problem? Jermel Charlo's been pretending that he doesn't need Demetrius Andrade for years now, at least 2, maybe 3, and pretending that he doesn't need Demetrius Andrade. Where's that actually gotten him? Juan Montiel?
Is that it?
From a pay-per-view with Sergey Devianchenko back to regular showtime against Juan Montiel, whose claim to fame is beating a very past-it James Kirkland, who shouldn't have even been allowed to fight.
There's still time to make an Andrade fight.
If I'm being honest, I don't know how many pay-per-view buys that fight could actually garner. I just know that there'd be more interest in seeing Demetrius Andrade and one of the Charlo brothers finally lock horns than seeing one of the Charlo brothers fight Juan Montiel. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody cares. And Jermel can't keep fighting in those kinds of fights that nobody really cares about.
Not that many people cared about the Devianchenko fight.
What do you think? More people are going to care about the Juan Montiel fight?
You better wake up and smell the coffee, sweetheart.